Good afternoon. This is Henry Hatter, co-host of the In My Opinion show. I will be co-hosted by Jackie Williams. Jackie.
Hi, Henry. Hello, everyone.
And today we have an excellent candidate for the Circuit Court of Genesee County, Glenn Cotton. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Hatter. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you for coming.
Glenn Cotton is well known and highly respected in Genesee County and the legal authority for the court matters. He has sought to join the Supreme Court a couple of years ago, in which he decided after that he would start all over and run for that position, do it the hard way. He will knock on doors, he will shake hands, and he will kiss babies. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hatter. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Glenn, what makes you think that you are ready to run for the High Court here?
Well, I'm running for the Genesee County Circuit Court because I'm qualified. I've had over 20 years experience. I've tried more cases than any other candidates that's running for this position. I'm a 1985 graduate of Carmen High School, 1989 graduate of the University of Michigan, and a 1994 graduate of the University of Detroit. I've had over 20 years experience practicing law. I'm dedicated to ensuring the Constitution and the public safety, and I want to make sure that all people are treated with dignity and respect.
Thank you. Jackie, please follow up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say your credentials speak for themselves, and that's excellent. Outside of the fact that you graduated from Carmen Ainsworth in '85, I appreciate that. But that's something that we really need, is somebody to represent the people with dignity, because a lot of time court experiences are not sought with dignity. It's very belittling experience for many people who have to enter the courts, and for you to say that, that speaks volumes as a person that you are.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's one of the things that I think I bring to this candidacy that other people don't, is that I've been dedicated to the community. I sat as the board chair of the Genesee District Library. I sat as a trustee for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So I've taken my community activism and have that serve as a pillar for what my legal experience brings to the table.
And it just brings me back to, we spoke earlier, and I said to him that that's how Obama started. Obama started in the community, and they underestimated his power, but he was connected with the people, and there is power in people. And for him to start at the beginning and start servicing in the community, that shows his heart, his commitment level, because a lot of people just go to work and they go home, but to be connected to the community, you got to do a little bit more than just go to work from 8 to 5.
Glenn, you said that you follow the Constitution. Do you follow the Constitution without exception?
Without exception, Mr. Hatter. I swore an oath to defend and uphold not only the United States Constitution, but the Michigan Constitution. And a lot of folks don't understand that our state constitution is very strong, and our United States Constitution is even stronger. And the oath that I took to uphold the rule of law, and that's what's important in the circuit court, is following the rule of law, making sure that stare decisis is protected, making sure that precedent is adhered to. And we want to live in and be a nation of laws, a state of laws. We don't want to have ourselves be run by not having the rule of law, and I'm very firm with the rule of law.
In other words, you wouldn't take a knee if you were elected to the legislature.
No, we don't take a knee. We do our job. And with respect to the role as a judge, the judge is supposed to administer the law. The judge is not supposed to legislate. The judge is not supposed to do things that's outside of his or her realm. The judge is supposed to administer the law and do so in a manner that is fair, not only to the people, but to all of the litigants.
And that's very encouraging, because a lot of times the laws don't always support, and you have people that will just take the other side, and then regular people like myself don't have a chance. So you just say that you hold it up and you make sure that the law is what's the determining factor and not the person. That's important, because so many times, judges judge things by who's in front of them versus what laws should be applied. So.
And you want to be fair.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that my candidacy brings is that I'm not a prosecutor. I'm a defense attorney, and I bring my experiences not only from the defense side but from a public service side to the bench. That would be the last candidate would be Judge Heyman. He was the last person that I knew that came from the defense side. So hopefully I would be able to follow in his footsteps, some footsteps that are awfully big, but I would be fair and impartial such as he.
And I think that's missing in our community, because I think our young men and our young boys need to see someone take the steps. And for you who were, you were raised in Flint.
Correct.
Went to Flint schools, public schools, not private schools, public schools, and then you went to Michigan, and then you graduated from Michigan. So you did all your education in Michigan. So you're not just coming here to get a position. You are from here. So that makes a difference because you have roots here.
Oh, most definitely. My father is a local 651 retiree. He worked at the AC plant for quite a number of years. All I can say is that I was raised with a work ethic and a sense of pride and accomplishment, that my merit stood for everything. In other words, that if I was good enough for something, then I was good enough. And if I wasn't good enough for something, then I needed to get better at it and become good enough for it.
And that's the role model that we're missing. We need to have our young men connect with people who are taking the steps to do a different turn, and to kind of give them an idea and motivation to know that this can be you. You're touchable, you're approachable, and that's an important fact too. A lot of times we get people in positions where they're not approachable, and then that way I can't dream with you if you won't talk to me.
Oh, that's most definitely the case. And one of the things that Henry had alluded to in the introduction is that I ran for a position beforehand and I didn't win. And because I didn't win, people will say, what did you learn from that? And I learned that I had to work harder and I had to be better. And the whole thing is to touch and relay to more people to understand what it is that I'm trying to bring to the court and what it is that I can do for them.
Glenn, I apologize here. I didn't mean that you ran for that position, but it was intended to be a gubernatorial appointment.
Yes.
Because this is your first time on the ballot, right?
No, this is the second time on the ballot because I ran for 68th District Court Judge in 2012.
Okay.
And then I subsequently sought a gubernatorial appointment with respect to the district court position that was given to Judge Gwynn, but I didn't receive one. And that's fine because
it's
now
your
I'm
time.
moving forward to working hard and getting elected by the people.
Seasons.
Yeah.
He's a religious guy, so he understands seasons, and
Sure.
sometimes it's not our season.
That's correct. That's correct.
What are the most important challenges for the circuit court right now?
Right now, some of the challenges in the circuit court is the court of broadest jurisdiction. You have court cases that involve disputes over $25,000 or felonies that are involved over a year's worth in prison. And one of the challenges that we have is with respect to the creation of these specialty courts. We have the Veterans Court, we have drug courts, we have things of that nature. But one of the problems that we have is the funding mechanism for those courts. So as these courts get created, we also have to have funds for these courts in order for them to be healthy, in order for them to be viable, in order for them to do the things that the residents of Genesee County need to be done.
Do you think there should be any more consolidation of the courts? Okay, go ahead.
Well, consolidation is a tough word in that the State Court Administrative Office did a study with respect to the number of judges, and there's a formula that's utilized by the State Court Administrative Office to determine the number of judges. With respect to the Circuit Court, the last determination that they determined that there was enough Circuit Court judges in Genesee County for the volume of cases that they have. Now, with respect to the District Court, they indicated that there was more capacity and there was more judges that was necessary than was needed in the District Court. So they eliminated a position and they sunsetted Judge Dowd's position. So they eliminated a position. So now there's 4 judges in the 67th or 67-5 District Court, which used to be the 68th District Court. Mm-hmm. So they have reduced the number of District Court judges by 1 in that court.
What's the difference of trial by jury and plea bargaining? Well, is there truly justice for the plaintiff?
Well, justice, Lady Liberty is something that truly should be blind with respect to the outcome of a case. So when you have a criminal case, you have to have the jury system. The jury system not only effectuates people by pleading, but it also effectuates people saying that they want their day in court and having a trial. Without the jury system, you would necessarily have the pleas that exist in the court, and without the pleas in the court, we would be overwhelmed with the number of cases that are waiting for jury. I have cases in the circuit court that it's not uncommon for somebody facing a capital case, which is a life offense, that they spend almost close to 2 years in jail before they're even tried on the case because of the overflow and the amount of caseload that's within the jurisdiction right now. So I would just say this, that a lot of people will say there need to be a push to eliminate some judges in the circuit court. I would say that there probably needs to be a push to maybe see if there should be an increase in the number of judges, because I think with our criminal caseload and the number of civil cases that we have, we probably could warrant another judge.
So if you're saying, so you're saying right now the workload is pretty heavy.
I believe that it's a heavy workload.
So then it would definitely be heavy for the lawyers, court-appointed lawyers.
I've done court-appointed work and then still do court-appointed work, and I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and if somebody doesn't have money, that's one thing our Constitution guarantees, is a right to a full and fair trial. And I was trained at the University of Detroit to represent folks to my fullest and capable ability, and I try to do so on an everyday basis.
So do you think our courts have adequate court-appointed attorneys, their workloads? Because I was in a court in Detroit, and their workload, they came in and it was just like they had so many cases that they had to see. So are the people really getting justice for them having such a high workload?
See, you spoke of Wayne County, and that county system has a different way that they appoint indigent counsel. Genesee County has its own way that it appoints indigent counsel. All I could say is this, is that we never have enough attorneys for the appointment of indigent counsel.
Okay.
You done?
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of building a complex that would enshroud all of the government services? Now, I know you've heard of that, right?
Oh yes, and the reason why you probably say that's more of a system of Oakland County. Oakland County has all of their systems centralized. They have the court centralized. They have the jail system centralized. Everything is located in one locality. That is convenient for that municipality and that jurisdiction. I don't know if the same could be done in Genesee County with respect to having the jail and the courts all located in the same tract of land and be done in a manner that is efficient allocation of the resources. So I'm all for taking a look to see how things can be done to be streamlined. One of the things that the courts have been utilizing more effectively is video recording of various proceedings. So something tells me that technology is also going to lay its head into this and the resolution of things. But as far as everything being centralized, I believe that there are pros and cons of taking such an approach, but each municipality, each locality has to determine what's in its best interest.
Well, I think the reason that they want to do that is to reduce the cost of government, and they want to reduce the size of government, the cost of government, because we don't have the money to run government the way we did 20 years ago.
That is correct, but with respect to the size of everything, you have to also indicate that you have the ability to effectively transport the inmates from one location to another. You also have to have the court staff. You also have to have all of the necessary infrastructure. So while it may seem simple to create centralized location of everything, I think there has to be more put in place for a plan for that, because cost in and of itself, as we've seen with respect to the Flint water crisis, the cost in and of itself, it shouldn't be a reason to justify why you have a system in a certain way.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Okay.
So the one of the things that I think one of our lessons that we've learned, at least that we've hopefully learned from the Flint water crisis, is that cost can't be the determinant factor of how we provide services, especially constitutional mandated services. So,
Explain that.
well, the Constitution guarantees you a right to counsel. Your Constitution guarantees you a right to have a fair trial. The Constitution doesn't say that you can only spend X amount of dollars, and if you spend Y amount of dollars, then you've gone overboard. Therefore, we have to take away what we've given from you. I believe the Constitution is there for a principle, and the principle manner is that whatever the cost shall be, you shall have a fair trial. Whatever the cost shall be, the right of the accused to be presumed innocent. And I don't think we have limits with respect to being able to appoint expert counsel or expert witnesses on folks. So there are a number of different ways that the system is not balanced. And if we put it all on indigent defendants that say that they're the reason why our system is broke, I think is completely unfair.
For you to say that, that's very interesting, because so many people say that, justice is supposed to be blind, but they said somebody's looking.
and see, that's the thing. Somebody's always peeping, and when they do take a peep, and then they want to take a peek and see how much something costs, all right, well, then we have to get into a lot of different costs. So when we start talking about costs of the criminal system, what about the civil system? Do we need to start looking at how much fees are paid with respect to civil litigation? Because the civil fees, from my understanding, haven't been changed in quite a long time with respect to significant increases. So perhaps that needs to be done with respect to the number of malpractice cases or negligence cases that are filed, and we should look into raising those fees. But with respect to what's done in the criminal system, I think we're doing an admirable job in the criminal justice system. Can we do better? Yes. But the whole thing is our Constitution is there to ensure that everybody receives a fair trial. And we want to have a fair shake.
And I'm sure that's encouraging. There's so many people who have went to court and they were heartbroken because they didn't feel like they had a fair chance, whether they had a court-appointed lawyer or their own lawyer that they have employed, because of the way things worked out. So to have someone there, you have to have your court system look just like your community.
That's correct. And
I think that's important.
One of the things that, I think my candidacy brings to the table is all of my 20 years experience. I grew up in this area. I've done work in this area. I practice in this area. There are some other candidates that I believe that are running that if they walked into the courthouse, nobody would know who those people are. And the whole thing is that when you have a reputation and people know my reputation, people know that I'm a fighter for my clients, people know that I treat people with dignity, people know that I treat people with respect, but most of all, people know that I am not going to be unethical, that I'm going to be above board, but most importantly, I'm going to follow the golden rules.
Glenn, I want to follow up on a couple questions here regarding the cost of government.
Sure.
We have got to reduce the cost of government. It's killing us. Our system will collapse if we don't find a way to reduce the cost of government. You said that you were not necessarily interested in consolidating the buildings to bring technology together in a central location and redistribute it as a central process. And I was going to ask you two more questions, and then I'll turn it over to you. If we consolidated that, and the governor has calls for to reduce the 83 counties into 7 regions. If Flint were at the center of one of those regions, would you be for metropolitan government?
Mr. Hatter, I think when we talk about...
Is that a good question?
A metropolitan government, see, The way that I look at the statute, and it says that your county seat should be your largest municipality within your county seat. So if we went by that municipal formula, that would then not take Flint and make it the county seat, because that does
Flint
not.
is the largest doing it.
That is right now.
Yeah,
but if we go by what the population is, Flint isn't the
Oh, that's
largest
right.
size
Yeah.
within the county.
Yeah.
So I think therefore you would have these other municipalities saying, such as Grand Blanc, that we are the largest community, so the center of everything should be here. All right,
wow.
and that would be a changing of the formula. So I believe that in order for that to happen, you would have to have not only either the legislative will to want to change that, or the ballot initiative will by the people to want to change that. And I just haven't seen that upswell of support to want to move to what I would call, that would be a radical change of the formula. And the formula for spending is specific in the Michigan Constitution, and it takes quite a bit in order to change that. So I don't know if the folks are ready to bite on that right now, Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
you know, maybe the folks are not ready to bite on it, but there is a reality that's coming toward us. We cannot continue to have continuous, repetitive governments doing the same thing.
Well, see, I
In the region.
I can understand your premise, but the problem is that our state constitution specifically calls out for the creation of a sheriff's department to warehouse and hold inmates within a local municipality. And each county has a county jail that it corresponds with that sheriff's specific statutory duties. So I don't know how that would come about with respect to your proposed change regarding the funding mechanisms, because they're all intertwined. So you could have a situation where Detroit, because of its size, has the capability to restructure all of its services so that it's getting the biggest bang for its buck. But whereas here in Genesee County, I think it would move and shift things from where it is now, being in Flint, and these other municipalities would come into play, perhaps Grand Blanc, perhaps another, or Flint Township, because they have more land and they're in a better position to say, we can centralize these locations being here and therefore justify the expense of everything being moved. But with respect to the revenue,
You have a plausible argument.
see, and the problem I have, Mr. Hatter, is the revenue. And see, when we all boil down to it, it's still going to get sliced from the same formula of revenue. And when we have our population the way we have it here, I don't think we could sustain having centralized services for the type of revenue that we have given our population.
Okay, so you're saying that regardless to where you have that hub, you still have the same, everybody still get the same percentages in that pie.
That's correct.
So the people in Flint would probably suffer if they had to go to the outskirts, because a lot of times people that are having to go to the course, a lot of times they use public transportation, so that would be a problem for them as well.
Well, that's what the new infrastructure would have to put in place.
But see, that's one of the things that the courts have been struggling with now, is that the out-county courts have been taking their criminal matters and taking them all downtown on specific dates that they handle their criminal dockets on those dates at what they would call a centralized location. And they believe that they're saving monies doing it that way, by which they're not having to lug these folks out to these out-county jurisdictions, in which the expense is even more so for lugging people to these out-county jurisdictions. So I do believe Genesee County is trying to be the most cost-effective that it can with respect to the number of costs that it's able to control. But by the same token, I don't know if we're at the level where we're going to be able to keep everything centralized and reduce cost in that means, Mr. Hatter.
No, I mean, that would be my question. I mean, you know, you think about the residents, and a lot of times Flint has lost so much. So if we can just work.
Yeah,
I
but
understand that, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking to those Flint residents. I mean, you know, so many things have been taken from them. So, you know,
the world
I
changes,
understand that.
and you know what?
I just
Somebody
think it's
loses,
a longer
and
conversation.
somebody-
We need to have some more research.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that people have to die on the vine because they live in Flint. You create through creative energy, new things. Because when something does change, something will have to fill that gap. And
Well, you
people,
know what they say about change, Henry? Everybody is not good
well,
at change.
we're not. I'm talking
I'm just
about.
saying,
we
people
have
are
to-
not good at changing. So, you know, you have some people, they're not good with change. So you're not just dealing with the ones that are, you know, the ones that are flexible. You're dealing with all people.
But-
So you have to think about the attitude of all people.
But I hope that when we, and you may be a judge at the time that, and have to rule on some of this stuff, just remember that we've talked about this and we have shared what happens if you move in another direction from what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, I think that's part of this exercise is that you want to listen, and that's part of I think why I'm running for the circuit court is that I believe I'm a good listener. I believe that I follow the law, but more importantly, I believe that I'll be fair and impartial, and I believe that I will do things in a manner that people will not necessarily say that I was disrespectful, that I was treated bad. They may not agree with how I rule, but I don't have to do it in such a manner that makes them feel that they've been belittled.
Right.
And see, the process sometimes can try to dehumanize an individual, and that's exactly just the opposite of what I would try to do. Is that I believe that a person needs to have that hands-on type of approach so that they understand that the courts are working on for them on their cases, that their tax dollars are not being wasted, but more importantly, that a person who sits up there who makes a decision is not so high on themselves that they don't feel that they can be treating somebody with dignity and respect.
And I think one of the things that we're missing in our community is that we need to introduce the court system to our young people at an early age and explain to them how the courts work.
Yeah.
Explain to them the processes. So if they have to go through those processes, they know what their rights are. They know who they can, you know, their advocates are. Because so many times our young people don't have that information, and our older people don't have that information. So they go to court and they're not well represented.
Oh, I can agree wholeheartedly with that. Not only about having an understanding of the court system, but an understanding of law enforcement.
Yes.
We need to have a better relationship with our police officers. I try a lot of cases, and I know that the police officers, that's a very, very hard job. And that job is so hard that sometimes people don't understand the pressure that these people have in those positions. And I just want sometimes that people take a time out and just remember that these people in law enforcement are there to serve and protect. And when they do in their jobs, let them know how well that they're doing their jobs.
Right.
And if they're not doing their jobs and they're not doing it well, then I'm sure they should let them know. But they should also give them praise where praise is due.
Yes.
And that's something I think we haven't done enough of, is praising our law enforcement officials, praising our judicial officials when they're doing
When they're
right.
doing well, yes.
Exactly.
Glenn, can I just sneak this one in?
Yes, sir.
We're becoming a pluralistic society. We got to be better than what we were in the past.
Yes, we do, and that's the thing about this being a judge. It's a nonpartisan position. Not only do I need people who are Democrats, not only do I need people who are Republicans, but I need people who are independents, but I need people who are going to vote for me, not because they like me, not because they don't like me, but because that I'm going to be fair, that I'm going to be dedicated, and I'm going to follow the law.
Okay, but a pluralistic society is based on race. We have to come together. Do you think that we need some serious discussions on race?
Yes,
in
we
this
do.
country?
We do.
I
We
mean,
need to
it's-
hold up the mirror, have a serious discussion,
Yeah.
let our wrinkles come out, but more importantly, dialogue and education is the key, Mr. Hatter.
Sure.
Education can solve just about every problem, and I will say whether it be the funding issue, whether it be race, the more we know, the better we will
I
be.
hope you will continue to believe in that. Now it's time for our show to come to a close. We've had fun with you. You've been a great presenter, and we wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
And with that, thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Glenn.
Thank you,
Good
Ms.
Now
discussion. Good
it's
discussion.
time for the In My Opinion Show to say, see you next time.